board certification, I remember going back to that time when I was studying and preparing, and I knew that I didn't have enough in me that I could do board certification without some help. And so, like most people, you know, they're like, oh man, this is a hard test. They dig down and they study it and they kind of figure it out. I knew I needed some help. I looked and looked, asked some colleagues, talked to people, and they said, you know, if you want to pass boards, if you want to get through this process without any issues, you got to talk to a guy named Dr. Niels Jensen. So I did some looking online and looked, and sure enough, Niels Jensen makes an oral board review course. So a little more money, a little more time, and I was on a plane to Chicago to go to the Niels Jensen oral board review course prep. So I remember kind of getting up in the morning, go downstairs to the workshop room there, and I remember kind of showing up, and you know, it was a little intense. I mean, I remember like all the lights went dark. You know, we're sitting down there, we're drinking coffee, and we're kind of eating our donuts or whatever. All the lights went dark. The spotlight goes on him, and he starts yelling at us like he's a drill sergeant. And it continued that way for 3 days. This was the most intense meeting, conference, prep class that I had ever been to. Well, throughout all of that, at the end of that, I was in the hallway and I was kind of getting ready to go back upstairs, get my stuff, hop on a plane, and go back to Iowa. Well, I remember meeting Niels Jensen in the hallway again, and he pulled me aside and he said, when you pass, call me. I'm like, okay. He's like, no, I've been watching you. He says, you know, there's 300, 400 people here. He says, when you pass, I want you to work for me. I'm like, okay, you're talking to me, right? And so at first I'm just like, man, what does this guy know that I don't know? I'm not for certain that I'm going to pass. I don't know that. Obviously, he saw something in me that impressed him. He saw something in me that he wanted as an asset. It kind of blew me away. It kind of just like, you know, man, I'm not that guy. I can't do that. As I was getting on the plane and in the plane flying back, I started to think about it. Here's a guy that's offering me cash, I don't know, $5,000 for a weekend to get people ready for board certification. He's offered me a position of academic excellence, a resume builder, a chance to make a notch in my career to saying, hey, you know, you were a board prep examiner. And then I start thinking about this here. Career's on the bottom, not on the top. You get 2,500 weekends in your life that are yours. If you take away a third of those, you're about, what, 1,600, 1,800 weekends that you're not on call. How many of those weekends are you going to spend chasing money? Then I start thinking about this guy here. Most of those revere courses were on Sabbath. That didn't quite work. Throw Sabbath, throw God to side to chase money, prestige, honor. I turned him down. A year later, I was at an anesthesia conference, ASA conference, and he was had his little booth there, and he was telling people all about his revere course. I ran into him and said, hey, you know, Niels, how you doing? You never responded. You never called me back. And I was like, well, yeah, I kind of thought about it. And he's like, nobody tells me no. That was a dumb decision. You're not going to advance in your career. I looked at him and I said, my wife and kids may disagree. And I have never looked back. I have never thought that I would want to work for Niels Jensen a minute in my life. When I turned him down, it was because I had the pyramid in order. I had God as number one in my life. Family is number two. Career, number three. No matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing, always have to have career in its proper position in your pyramid. The real question is, who is in control of your life? Who is on top? Who is the king? Who is sitting on the throne in your life? So fast forward the clock. We saw David when he was a little boy, and he was fighting Goliath. Now we have David when he is 50 years old. David had been reigning for about 10 years at the time, and he was in the palace in the spring of the year, and the men, all of the men in the country, went off to war. I don't know why they went off to war. Maybe the spring of the year, maybe they had nothing else to do, maybe they were bored and they just had to control their energy, so they went off to war. As it is, he's the only one kind of in the palace that is there. So, David stays back to do paperwork, pay his taxes, do something. He's on the veranda upstairs in the evening, and he's kicking back on his lawn chair, surfing through the Israelite version of Facebook, and he happens to look up from his stone tablet to see, whoa, there's something out there. Red flag number 1. He keeps looking. That looks pretty good. Hey, servant, who's that over there? Servant says, I'll find out. Red flag number 2. Servant reports back, I think that is the wife of Uriah. What does David respond? Get her for me. Where are we at? Red flag number 4 now? 5. Bathsheba does what everybody does when the king summons them. She comes. You know the story. David brings her into his palace. They sleep together. And then he sends her away. Another red flag goes up. David, I'm pregnant. David, however, is not worried. He's king. He's gone through little problems before. He can solve problems that are simple and easy to solve. He said, I got it. We're going to have a little meeting with Uriah. So, sends a messenger. Messenger goes to the battlefront, saying, hey, you know that guy Uriah? I want to talk to him. So, brings Uriah into the office in the palace. Hey, Uriah, my friend, how's it going? What's going on with the battle? How are we doing? Uriah's like, oh, we're doing great, or we're doing bad, and these are the people. And he's like, you know what? This has been great. Now, there's your house. Go home. What does Uriah do? Goes to the front porch, and he sleeps on the porch all night long. Oh my. Now what are we going to do? David's like, you know what? I got this. I didn't become king last night. I got this. He said, next night, Uriah, can you stay one more night? I'd like to talk with you again. I'd like to do something. So he brings Uriah in. This time they go down to the wine cellar. And he starts pouring drinks, and he starts pouring drinks. He gets Uriah stone drunk, and he says, Uriah, there's your house. I think your wife's lonely. Go home. Uriah says, how can I go home and enjoy the pleasures of home and the joy of my life when my men are out there on the battlefield? Red flag number 5. Third night, Uriah, come here. I got a little message for you. David writes out on the message. Commander of the Israelite army, please put Uriah in the front lines. When the battle is most intense, when the battle is heating up the most hottest, pull back from him so that he is killed. He gives Uriah his own death warrant to take to the battlefront. Can you believe that? This is the king. This is David, a man after God's own heart. This is a guy who fought the Philistine, Goliath. Uriah takes it to the commander just exactly as it was written out. The army advanced with Uriah in the front lines, and Uriah is killed. David then is now proud of himself. I have the problem solved. Everything is good. Everything is fine. No problems, no issues. What does he do? You know what? I'm going to make myself even look more magnanimous. I'm going to take Bathsheba as my wife. I'm going to bring her into the palace. I'm going to bring her into me. And I am going to raise that child like it's mine. In the palace that David has, the walls talk. Secrets are not secrets. And eventually a guy named Nathan, approaches David. He tells him a story. He tells him a story about a sheep. He tells him a story that incriminates David to his soul. Second Samuel 11:27. We read, "But the thing that David did displeased the Lord." The thing that David did displeased the Lord. You want to know what God's will for your life is? Don't displease the Lord. You want to know what following God's will is? Don't displease the Lord. Throughout the rest of his life, David's family is cursed with the sword. You have to read this. You have to read this just to get this right. Let's see here. The list. The child that was born to Bathsheba died. One of David's sons obsessed with another of his daughters, so much that when he failed to seduce her, he raped her. Another one of his sons kills that son in revenge for the raping of his sister. David does nothing. Another one of his sons, Absalom, schemed for 10 years on how to take the throne away from David. And when he finally got the chance, that son was slaughtered in the battle. David had to flee Jerusalem on foot to the mountains to get away from Absalom. The remaining sons were fighting to take the throne. For the rest of his life, David's sin with Bathsheba followed him. What kind of legacy are you leaving? What kind of legacy are you going to be? When the history books are written, what are they going to write about you in your life? Are you going to be the leader of your family, the leader of your career, the leader at work, the leader at home? Are you going to be like Jesus when he came to the Last Supper? He pulled a towel around his waist, became a servant. David did repent last in his life because we read Psalms. Oh my God, my Lord, I put my hope and my trust in you. Will you allow God to sit in the throne of your life? Who's at the top of your pyramid? Who takes most precedence in your life? Who is the priest of your family? Who is steering and guiding your career? In practical terms, what is God's will for your life? God, family, career, all being led and filtered down to the top. The King on the throne, which is God. God, family, career. In that order, in that relationship, in that sequence. We got to finish up. We got to close. But everybody needs to make that choice. Everybody needs to make that determination. Who is going to sit on the throne of your life? As we sing our closing hymn, number 538, "Guide Me Thou, Our Great Jehovah." As we sing the closing song, I want you to think about who is in charge. Is it you? Is it your will? Or do you actually have God in charge of your life? Let's stand as we sing our closing song. we think about your will for our life, as we think about who's in charge, who sits on the throne of our life, how do we organize our priorities, our wishes, our desires with what you would have us to do? I pray, Lord, that we always, every day, get off of that throne of our own self, get off of that our own desire, our own will, and allow you to sit and control us each and every day. I pray in your name. Amen.